right, guys. Reverb. In this video, we're going to talk about reverb and how to use reverb and where to use reverb and why to use reverb. So reverb is basically like, whereas panorama is like left to right, separation and mono, kind of like left to right field. Reverb is the front back field, so the near and distant field. So reverb to me is a critical part of making a overall sound, and I love reverb. Reverb is probably my favorite mixing tool. I just like adding reverb. I think reverb sounds good with everything, and I use that on a lot of different things, almost everything, pretty much everything. And so I love reverb, and reverb or mixing mixing can be very creative, and like I said, you might find a part of mixing that you really like. Definitely like invest in it, try to learn more about it, and I think it'll pay dividends. Like mixing is surprisingly creative, just like beats, just like the pattern part of beat making is very creative. Mixing can be very creative, but again, all great mixers use like certain fundamentals, which is pretty much what I'm going to talk about. And so again, I love mixing, and this is an older beat, and I'm gonna kind of tweak this beat, tweak the reverb, and I'm sure it already has reverb. I just listened to it, has reverb for sure, and like it has a lot of reverb, but we're gonna kind of tweak it a bit, and we're gonna focus on mostly the melody, and then we'll kind of like take a peek at the drums a bit too, just to show you like reverb on drums, reverbs on melodies. I think those are the two biggest things to focus on, and that really is like most of the beat. But anyways, we'll start with the melody. So I'm going to solo the melody here. So it's like a keyboard sound. Okay, typically with melodies, and you can see how separated this already is width-wise, and I'll just, for example, this is what it sounds like not separated. This sounds much better separated. It doesn't always work the same for every melody. In some VSTs, the melodies will already come with some reverb on it. Okay, so just keep that in mind too, because adding the same amount of reverb doesn't always work for every track, from what I've experienced. But okay, so it sounds pretty good actually, but it has the Fruity Left filter on it already, so I added two effects, which is cool. But let's focus on the reverb here. Okay, so every reverb VST will have a dry knob, a wet knob, and a pre-delay, and we're gonna focus on those three. Dry is like how close something is. So when the dry is all the way up, it's like close. Wet is like the opposite, distant. And then pre-delay is like how the reverb reverberates, or like the timing of it. And typically you would want to match the delay with or pre-delay with the BPM. So, and to do that, you can do a calculation. You can put this in, say, ChatGPT, or however you want to calculate it. You could literally say in ChatGPT, what's the timing? But I know the timing I use is 7,500 divided by the BPM, and that'll give you the pre-delay time that you should put in. Okay, so in this case, it's 42. Okay, and it sounds like a lot, but honestly, like when you start making beats or start doing this, like you probably have it memorized at some point, or you just do a quick calculation. It's really not that big of a deal, but like I actually think that this is a very minor detail that makes a big difference, and I'll show you. Okay, so this is with zero pre-delay, and having zero pre-delay can make it sound like closer, and then adding more delay can make it sound further. What's going on with this hi-hat, bro? Okay, that should be playing right now. Where is this thing? Okay, is that what's playing? Sorry, let me move this real quick. Okay, because I'm just trying to focus on the video. All right, so my pursuit of making perfect videos. The journey continues, but let's see here. Okay. Delay. Let's make this delay 42. And this part is actually kind of hard sometimes because it can be kind of hard. Like your hands need to be really steady when you do that. Okay, 42, great. It's gonna sound better lined up more times than not. Especially do that for the melodies. Because the melody is more. Is that thing okay, just ignore the hi-hat. The melody plays throughout the track, so you want the pre-delay to match. Like, whereas if you, the snare, I'd say it's less strenuous, like, or like needed, because it's like boom, that's it. Melody plays like the whole track. So just off the top, that's a small detail that can really improve your beats. Now dry, wet, it just depends on what you're going for. I would say typically a melody you would want to be a little further, like a little further, wider distance. It's the same thing with panning. Typically you would want the melody to be kind of like more panned and more separated. And same goes for the reverb. The near far, you want it to be kind of like, I would almost say like the same distance. I would say far, but not necessarily like full blown far. But let's experiment a little bit. I don't have my speakers either. I'm using my headphones, so I think it's obviously good to listen to this with speakers as well. Well, for sure, but let's see this in that situation right there, obviously we would want to lower the volume of the melody before this even happens. The filter, I would prefer the filter to go after. I guess it can go before. I gotta think about that for a second, but based on the signal flow, as you know, the signal goes down this way. Watch my signal flow video. Okay. In this situation, I'd probably just keep it how it is, and then just adjust the pre-delay. And then, oh my gosh, when I say presets, when I say reverb can add to the creativity of a beat, I mean, like, look at the amount of presets here. So if you have like a certain sound that you want to get, or a certain area that you kind of see this in, you could maybe check this out. I think the reverb sounds good on this already, just based on what I've heard on this melody. Like when I hear this melody, to me it sounds good. So I would just leave it like it is. This is the default one, which is the one that I historically would use. And I still use that one. I'm not gonna lie. I think it sounds good in most situations. There are a bunch of presets. And again, the dry. So if I take out some of the dry, it's gonna go from sounding up close to sounding more distant. So this is a neat tool if that's what you want to go for. And that might be more effective than tweaking the wet knob here, because we saw the wet knob just makes the gain just go crazy. Overall signal for the sound, if you will. Alright, let's play this with the whole beat. See how it sounds like with the whole beat. Where would I leave this? Again, if we have sounds that are already supposed to be up close that use the reverb especially, I'd maybe take this back just a notch. Why? So it doesn't compete with the other sounds. So a lot of mixing is just making making sure the sounds are separated and they sound unique and clear. So with this, I maybe take it back a notch. Because the bass, it's going to compete with the bass because the bass is more up close, as you see here. That's typically how I do basses, and that's kind of how many people do basses. Is the bass would be more mono and more up close. So if I do add a reverb to this, which I wouldn't add much because it's a bass and it kind of already has like a reverby type of sound. It's very like, that's kind of how the bass sound is. It's just kind of like more larger, if you wills. If I did use this, I would keep the dry knob here so it's more up close. We could take out some of the that's one way you can separate just the sounds in general. So again, like it's just like panning, and it's just like leveling. It's just like everything else. Like you want the sounds to kind of have like their own space. So if one is more near, the other one should be a different locale, if you will. Basses are typically more near, melodies are typically farther. But I think that's a good separation. And then I'd probably fix the break a little too if I use this too. Okay, so bass on this, probably need to turn the volume down, but anyways, the point is, that's there. Now let's go to the snare here. Nice. Alright. This is my second part of the beat. Classy. Okay, let's pull the reverb out on this because this doesn't have reverb at all. In terms of where to add snare and like the reverb kind of locale, I would say it's typically, or what I'm going for, okay, I made this one a little bit wider. Basically, you just want to separate the sounds. So we know this one is widest. This one probably needs to be less than that, but not the same as the bass, if that makes any sense. Okay, so let's go to the convolver here. Let's try. All right, let's actually just solo the snare here. All right, so this one is not as influenced. Oh, this isn't on, that's why. Okay, my son just woke up. Let me see here. Where do I start with this one? Let's take this back just a little bit. So it's not exactly where the reverb of the bass is. It's probably the major adjustment. When it comes to snare, I'll also maybe consider again, the dry often controls the distance, so does the wet, and some weird balance. You can also mess with the mix knob here. So I could be like, and that's kind of like a culmination of both of these. So again, you can figure out where you want that to be on there. Does it, and then how does it sound now? Do we want it more up close? Now I think about it, I should have adjusted the wetness of the bass. Okay, and sometimes the reverb doesn't sound right on a snare, like in general. Like it just makes the overall beat sound weird. In which case, you can just take it off. But I think that fits nice. Let's go back to the bass here. Let's solo this. Typically, man, I would turn the bass down here. Where is this thing? Alright, just for time's sake, I'm gonna turn it down right here. Alright. Okay, and I use this bass, or this reverb. And, let's see. Oh, I adjusted the wet already. Okay, that's good. And with the dry is all the way up. So this is kind of like, that's a zone. I gotta think about where I would want this, but I think that's pretty good. Wait, where do we put the snare? I'm trying to visually see this one. Okay, so as long as it's not the exact same one as the snare, especially, I could probably get a little closer there, but that's about right. And that's really it. I'm gonna show you Reverb 2 because this is another popular one. And you can add multiple reverbs to a track, and it can make the reverb just sound crazy. Again, this reverb already sounds good, so I would not adjust too much. Sometimes you put it on, it just clicks like that. Like that happens a lot, and sometimes you have to adjust it. This one, it feels like it just clicks right, minus the delay. And as you see here, there's the delay. Okay, so again, off the bat, we'd probably change this to 42, and this one is very sensitive and very hard to line. I think that's why I liked using the convolver, one of the reasons. But this one, 44, I wish I could have got it closer. It's hard to adjust this one. Anyways, the point is, let's look at this, and you see the dry and wet. Again, it does like the same thing. These presets are more simple. Like there's large hall, cathedral. Do you want like a cathedral sound? If you're making like a church type beat, I recommend trying that and then adjusting. There's a lot of other settings as well, but you see adding even more reverb can make it sound even more lush. One thing you can do is make the same sound close on one and then far on the other. So this one, maybe we have one where the wetness is a little higher. You can create some craziness here, as you can see, so just experiment with that. Close. Video because there's a lot going on here. Okay, reverb is designed to make the sound bigger and typically, and I would say better. It can make your track sound better. It can sound like you're at a specific place, so you can use the creativity to make the beat sound like, say you want a space beat or something like that. You can use it to make it sound more like where you want it to be. You can add creativity to a track. Match the pre-delay with the BPM. You do that by dividing 7,500 by the BPM. For melodies, maybe you could try like a 70% wet. I forgot to mention this. And then a 30% dry. That's one that you can try. But again, just experiment. Again, experiment, check that out. That's really it. Near, far. Oh, make sure when you have multiple reverbs, if you want, I do recommend you put them in different like locations. Like, you don't have the exact same reverb on every single sound, because it'll be at the same distance basically. And that's like one of the keys to mixing, is to differentiate the distances and make sure the sound clear. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. What else we got here? That's it, actually. Wait, hold on. For more information, check out our How to Mix Beats book. We have the paperback too on Amazon. Be sure to check that out. Check that out, you guys. Link in the description. Peace out.